Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Coaches podcast, where we talk about everything going on in the world of sports. And we had to skip last week because my schedule was not conducive to doing a podcast. But I will say I was very, very worried with that Game 7 because everything we talked about the week before was talking about the matchup we have right now for the finals. And when that went to Game 7, I was like, none of the stuff we talked about the week before is going to count, because we're going to have a completely different finals. And I was going, how are we going to do like an emergency podcast or something? And luckily it worked out fine, and Boston folded, and here we have it. So we have the final that we thought we were going to have. So far, we've had Denver dominating, and then Heat making some very smart adjustments. And I don't know if you guys listened to the Draymond Green, Steve Kerr podcast, but just kind of breaking down what the Heat did to adjust to Denver, I thought was pretty fascinating. So, Brother Bill, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts so far with the two first games in the NBA Finals?
I mean, my thought was I expected Denver to win Game 1 only because the Heat just came off a grueling 7-game series. They only had, 2 days to rest. And I mean, that was, I think, a lot to ask for them to rebound after just 1 day's rest. Even with Denver having the 6-7 day layoff, whatever it was. So Game 1 didn't surprise me. And to be honest, Game 2 didn't surprise me either. What I underestimated was how good Denver defense was when they went to zone. Because if you look at the stats, Michael Porter, no show. Murray got his customary 20 points. Joker going 41 points. I just believe they made the adjustment that, let him get his points, but where he really makes his gravy is on distributing the ball. And they only had 4 players, this is Denver, who were in double figures, and the benches were a wash. I think Miami, they just missed shots in Game 1. If you look at, Game 2 and how they started the first quarter and the third quarter, that's a proof to me that defensively, Denver just has a problem with keeping assignments. There were several plays where the reason why the Miami shooters are getting wide open looks was because Denver was either double teaming the wrong guy and leaving either Martin or Strus wide open threes, or they were just late on staying with when Duncan Robinson checked into the game. Big 10 points right off the bench. So I just believe that Miami as a team and in terms of scheme, I think they have an advantage over Denver in terms of their execution. So we'll be interesting to see how well Denver executes defensively in Games 3 and 4 in Miami.
Big Greg.
Well, I think Miami had 2 days off, and I think that's typical. The rest you need to stay moving. Denver had that long rest, so that can be a hindrance. But they came out and won Game 1. Denver came out and won Game 1. I think the adjustment of starting Kevin Love on Aaron Gordon, more physical matchup, that played a big part in changing the matchups. I mean, Gordon was overpowering in the first game, doing back cuts and things like that, and just posting up. I think the assignments that they missed, you were right, that Denver, they were getting bad switches and not rotating good on defense. I think they'll adjust to that. You watch film and you can see where you made your mistakes and just go ahead and adjust to that. But I think what Denver really has to do is they really have to impose their will, just like Miami did. Miami came out and got physical and imposed their will. Denver got to do the same thing. You can't just because they want to go physical, they want to go big. All right, you want to go big, we got to go big with you. And I think they need to post up Michael Porter Jr. more. They got him out there shooting those threes. He's 6'10". They need to do some more. He needs to get down there on the block too. So I think in the long run, I think Denver will make the adjustments that they need to, and it's going to be a good series. I thought after the first game, I thought that it was going to be a wash. I almost thought it was going to be a sweep. But like I say, Miami came out and made some good adjustments and things. But I think Denver will hit their stride and figure out that. Because they were up by 15 points at one time in that game, in the second game. I think they just let it get away from them, but I think they will bounce back, get physical with them, This is going to be a tough game in Miami, though. That first game in Miami is going to be tough, but Denver has to get one in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting. So the strategy seemed to be, let Joker score and keep him from distributing. And it looked like with the as irritated as the coach was with the team playing defensively and missing assignments and kind of being out of sorts, that the way that they were handling their offense almost threw off their defense, because the people were disengaged because they weren't getting the ball distributed the way that they normally are. So it's almost like their Miami's defense also helped their offense, because Denver's defense wasn't it's almost like they didn't know what to do or how to respond, because they were disconnected because of what was going on offense. I thought obviously that's not going to work 2 games in a row because they know what they're going to do, but what kind of adjustments do you see besides being physical do you see Denver doing to kind of overcome what Miami's doing? Because Miami's obviously does execution well and stuff, and they stay in their assignments, but I can't imagine Denver allowing, oh, well, Joker's going to get 45 points and they're going to lose, because every time Joker scores a lot of points, they lose. There's like a weird stat. What adjustments do you see Denver doing besides just being physical with Miami to kind of overcome that keeping Joker from distributing?
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, I see Denver making a concerted decision to guard the perimeter shooters better, if that means either man or zone, because that's where I think Miami has the advantage in terms of, they have knockdown shooters, between Martin, Strus, and Gabe, I can't remember his last name. We're drawing a blank. But between those 3 guys, that's where I think Miami made their hay in game 2. And believe it or not, a few more shots in game 1, it could have been a closer game. So you have to take away, I think, what a team strength, and that's their strength. I think the other thing that Denver they had to find a way, concerted effort to do, is to get to the free throw line more. It was a wash. And to Deacon Hill's point, posted on not just Michael Porter, but Jamal Murray. Did he even have 6 free throw attempts? I don't think so in game 2. And I think that's because with Miami going zone, they kind of limited his ability to get the ball in his spots. So they've offensively get the advantage inside, and then defensively guard the perimeter and take away Miami's threes, and just be willing to live with the result of Miami can find a way to get inside. Because Denver doesn't have any shot blockers, believe it or not. As good as Joker is, he's not a shot blocker. And once you get him away from the key, there's no one to protect the rim. There were a couple of plays where Miami just missed some easy buckets. So I think, to Greg's point, Deacon Hill's point, game 3 I think is really going to set up the rest of the series to me, on how teams have made adjustments and where they think their advantage is.
Yeah, you made a good point. I think that is true, that they needed Denver definitely needs to guard the perimeter. They have to make a concerted effort to play better defense on the perimeter. The other guy, Robinson, he comes off the bench, and he's a knockdown shooter also. But and everybody's saying that teams make they say, well, we're just going to let Joker score. I don't think they just do that. Joker can just score. That's not a strategy. Oh, we just let Joker score. No, he can score any kind of way. He shoots all these shots that's unorthodox and all that kind of stuff. So he's going to get his points. I just think that Denver really those guys have to really want it. They got to cut hard to the basket. They got to set better screens, and they got, just like Miami was doing. They were making some hard cuts, and you got to work for it. They thought that they were just going to come out and do like they did in game 1, and everything was going to work out. They know that they're in a game, and it's going to be I think it's going to be more physical. Who wants it more, and that's who's going to take it. But the game is going to be won more in the paint, and like you said, they're going to have to guard that 3-point shooting, and then for Denver, they're going to have to because they're not really, the only knockdown shooters they really have is Murray Porter is very streaky. He's very streaky. I would rather have him playing more down in the 6'10". You need to come down here a little bit more. And Gordon, them guys down there battling. But that's where they're gonna make their money, is down in the paint.
So Denver obviously has a home court advantage, probably more because of the altitude than the arena and the people going to it. Does Miami have a tough? Is it a tough place to play?
Oh yeah.
Well,
I think so.
In the last series, though, go ahead. Sorry, Deacon Hill.
No, go ahead.
No, so in the last series, Eastern Conference Finals, the home team only won 2 games out of 7. So clearly Miami. I don't consider them having playing at Miami being as much of an advantage. They won 3 times in Boston. They only won 1 of their 3 games at home. And so it'll be interesting to see, Denver, through the course of the regular season and playoffs, they were, almost unbeatable at home. Miami was able to crack that. So if I'm Miami, I'm saying, no way do you let game 3 slip away, because I thought they were going to finish Boston in 6 at home. And we saw how that turned out. Boston just destroyed them. And so I think, this is Miami's window to take care of business at home, and just do what they do best. And then, go from there when they get to game 5.
Yeah. For a lot of people, I know the altitude has a lot to do with it, but I think after a while you get acclimated to that. I think maybe like game 1, you're just like, wow, what's going on? But I think once you stay up there for a little while, I think and a lot of it could be mental. It could be psychological. You're thinking that you're tired or whatever. Then once you break through that, that glass ceiling or whatever, you break through it, and you say, all right, I can do this. So I think once you played up there a couple of times, I think it's anybody's game, whether you're in Denver or Miami.
Yeah. I'm wondering if obviously game 2 is easier than game 1, especially at the beginning of the series. I'm wondering, after being up there for a few days, coming back to Miami and then having to go back, if they acclimate quicker. I mean, I would assume they'd acclimate quicker, and they, being up there. But did Brady? I don't think Brady ever won in Denver, like his whole career. And that has to be something. I mean, it's not like the Broncos Stadium is like overly intimidating. Like it has to be something to do with the altitude, something. Brady's the best ever. So
I know the ball flies a lot further up there.
Coors Field, yes.
Janikowski kicked that record field goal up there.
Yes. All right, so a huge 180 in golf. I think it was announced yesterday morning. All of a sudden, the LIV and the PGA, and then they had some other group that's in there, but I've never heard of the other group, so I don't know who they are. But somehow they got mixed in with this too. But whoever that other group is, and then so we have the people with no morals, with the people with all the morals, are now a year, like even a year later, are now best buds moving forward into a copacetic golf season next year, which I don't know what that means yet, but a very interesting turn of events. Deacon Hill, thoughts on where the PGA was and then where they are now, because it didn't seem like the LIV had a great season in itself, because nobody could really, like, the games on like the WB or some obscure thing. But then because they've paid hundreds of millions of dollars to all the best players, when they come back and do the tournaments, which aren't even the big tournaments, which aren't even PGA events, which is interesting, they're their own thing. They won the tournaments, and now here we are. PGA is, let's be buddies. And so just thoughts on that 180 with the PGA.
Yeah, like you said, I didn't see it coming, that's amazing. The commissioner, like I say, at the beginning of the year, he was talking about it was blood money, and that his family had family members died in 9/11, and he don't see how those players can look in the mirror for going over there and playing with them and stuff like that. And it all boils down to money, though. They Saudi, they got a lot of money. They were paying those players a lot of money. And the poor guys that stuck with the PGA, Tiger, and
Rory was talking
Roy
all
McIlroy,
kinds of crap
yeah,
about
Roy.
LIV.
You know, these guys. And the sad part about it is, I heard a lot of them. They didn't even tell them. They found out on Twitter and stuff like that. You know, they didn't even tell the players. So yeah, and I don't know how it's going to framework, who's going to be in charge, or I don't know how any of that's going to work. But it was a 180 that came out of the blue, and yeah, I don't get it. I'm going to be interested to see how that works out.
Yeah, Brother Bill.
If you think about or remember, those of us who are old enough to remember when there was the details around the ABA-NBA merger and the AFL-NFL merger. What those two had in common was the desire to keep all the market share for their respective sports. The AFL and NFL were competitors. The ABA and NBA were competitors. And what's the saying? If you can't beat them, join them. Money. You to simplify your revenue if you get your competitor out of the way. And LIV was competing with PGA. And I just believe that was the, what do you say, follow the money. I just think that it was a financial decision to merge the two. Plain and simple.
I can't wait I want to see that first press conference where the reporter that has enough, cojones to ask goes, so is this not blood money anymore? Did something happen now that this is different now than it was before? Was 9/11 an inside job now? So now we can work with the Saudis? Is that, I mean, like, what's the flip that they're going to, because it was like, it was a year. I mean, it's not like 10 years ago and there's like this new, a new group of people coming into PGA. These are the same people that were losing their minds a year ago, having the meeting with all the PGA players, sending out the mucky muck PGA players to basically like support the PGA and kind of talk crap about the people that went for the money. And then here we are, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to work together. They must be like, if I was, especially Rory, I mean, Tiger was kind of a leader, but Tiger's, he's in and out of tournaments and injuries and stuff. But Rory was on like the front lines out there saying all kinds, I mean, like getting in arguments with people. And now it's like, oh, well, we're going to be hanging out with Phil Mickelson again, and we're going to be, Greg Norman, and we're all buddies now. It is such a weird and fast turnaround, considering nobody watched any of the LIV stuff. I mean, so people watch PGA kind of as much as they probably watch the LIV, and yet here we are. Because I can't imagine golf numbers are great without Tiger. So it's not like there's a whole bunch of people watching Dustin Johnson, and I don't know a ton of golfers, but I know Dustin Johnson. But I can't imagine it dropped that much that they're like, oh, we have to do this or else. And now they just look like, for lack of a better term, they just look like hoes. They're just like, okay, we gotta team up with them. And Saudi's gonna be footing the bill. They're like, hey, we got this bill for this. Can you guys cover this? Have you seen, so just speaking of Saudi money, have you guys seen what they're paying soccer players? Like they're trying, like they have they're trying to, I think they're trying to get Messi. Is it Messi?
Yeah, I think it is.
So but they're paying like $300 million a year for them to come play in their tournaments. They got,
aren't they trying to get a league over there also? They're trying to take
probably.
They're trying to get a soccer league over there.
Yeah, I mean, they're just gonna do. I guess they'll just do the same thing that they're doing with golf, where we'll just pay you an insane amount of money. Nobody will ever see you again because you're playing in a league that nobody watches, but you will be absolutely filthy rich. And it's kind of hard to say. Somebody goes, hey, I'm going to give you $300 million a year. You go,
yeah,
okay, that's a lot. So speaking of money, Oakland, or the A's, I guess I shouldn't say Oakland because it could be Vegas, it could be Oakland, it could be someplace else. They had an opportunity to be put on the agenda for a meeting to decide whether or not that Vegas is going to pay the 1.8 billion or whatever it is to bring them over, and then they bypassed it. And then now Oakland mayor is talking about how she's going to fight for the A's, which I thought that's what she should have probably been doing the last 6 years when they've been talking about leaving, 5 years. But here we are, A's potentially in Vegas. I'm sure Vegas runs a little different than other cities, where I'm sure they could just drop in a special meeting and vote for it at any time. So just that because it got bypassed isn't a big deal. But Brother Bill, thoughts on the A's situation, the A's ownership situation, Libby Schaff, Vegas?
And you know what? Libby Schaff is not even the mayor. They got a different mayor. I didn't even know that.
That's right. She lost 3 teams. She lost 2.5 teams because one's on the way out, but she lost 3. She's a terrible sports mayor.
Yeah. The current sports mayor, I can't remember her name, but I just believe it's a done deal. Because if you're the city, then what can you offer the A's in order to stay? I just don't see them like anything. It's not so much that they gave them a reason to leave, but now Vegas is throwing out what they're willing to do, get them to stadium, and basically meeting the A's need. Yeah, on the Strip. And so unless the city of Oakland has something to counter and better that, I can't see the A's staying.
Yeah. Deacon Hill.
Well, I got a kind of a different take on that, because they've been talking to Vegas all this time. There's been this big old buildup and everything. How do they not get on the agenda? How do you not? If they've been just all you've been hearing. A's to Vegas, A's to Vegas, A's to Vegas. They've been talking about it, and they're going to set the date was already set for the meeting, and they're not on the agenda. So something strange is happening. And I did see I seen the Oakland mayor this morning on TV, and they had the pictures of this waterfront down there, by Jack London Square and all this, and it looks beautiful on paper. That picture looked nice, so it looked like a nice stadium that they could do. I don't know if they could get it done, because I know the taxpayers in Oakland are still on the hook for Mount Davis over there, and so I don't know if they got the money to do it. But I just find it very strange that Vegas, something ain't right over there. That they've been talking about this big buildup, and all of a sudden you don't have them on the agenda. So I'm not counting Oakland out yet.
Well, the other crazy thing too that I saw is, so they're having summer baseball meetings or league meetings or something like that in like a week and a half, where they're talking about they could potentially vote on the move from Oakland to Vegas. But if there's no stadium deal in place, and they're talking about, because Oakland's leases up, the A's leases up with the Coliseum next season, and they would go play there's a AAA team there, or there's a college baseball stadium there or something like that, and that's where they would play for a couple years, which I believe it's outdoors. So have fun with that.
Hey, well, listen to this one. I was watching something where Sacramento's trying to come in and play. They're pushing hard.
I don't even know how Sacramento has a basketball team, let alone get a baseball team too.
They want the A's. They're trying to make a play for them. So don't count Sacramento out.
The A's, geez, and then the Rays need to move someplace too, because Tampa's a terrible baseball town. The A's and Rays need to go. Like, Tampa needs to go to Nashville, and the A's. I mean, maybe baseball will work in Vegas just because so many people travel there, but it's.
Yeah, I don't even see a new stadium in Oakland will work. I don't even think they got the fan. Something's going on with. I don't even think it's just a stadium. No, yeah, I don't know what it is. It's the product also. That product is pretty bad. That product is pretty bad. So, but
they also had to be. I mean, even when they were good, they weren't like selling out games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even when they were like, make the playoffs every year and everything. It's messy, but I bet the no vote, or the not being on the ballot, the owner's obviously shady. He's obviously got a lot of, he's got like sewer issues in his stadium. He's like doing all these things to keep people from attending games, so they have a reason. Like, he's super shady. I could see the guys in Vegas who don't mess around business wise sitting down with him going, no, this is a different place. This isn't Oakland. You got to listen to us. Last topic. D-Hop is still a free agent, and I know that he has kind of single-handedly killed us in games where Kyler just kind of throw the ball anywhere and he can pull it down. I heard today that people are saying he's lost a step, but he was never like the quickest guy anyways. He's just got great hands and is real quick. Where do you see D-Hop ending up next year? Deacon Greg, I'll start with you. Vegas. There we go. Without a quarterback, you have all these wide receivers, no quarterback.
Oh, that's funny, huh, Bill? Listen.
Sorry. Go ahead, D.
No, I would love to see him in Vegas, but I mean, he's a talent. I don't know where I really don't know. Somebody's gonna get him though for sure. And what's the big deal? Why did he leave Arizona though? What happened there?
They released him. But what's weird to me is they released him, and their penalty hit is exactly what he was going to get paid. So why not just keep him and trade him? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
but Arizona does a whole bunch of dumb stuff, so that doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, he's going to go somewhere. I don't know. I don't have a clue, but I would love to see him. Seriously, I would love to see him. I would love to see him in Vegas.
Yeah, I'd love to see him in Santa Clara. That'd be awesome. Brother Bill, where do you think he ends up?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. For his just talent and skill as a receiver, and the 49ers, to me, lacking I wouldn't even say a deep threat, but a receiver where you always have to keep a safety over the top. I don't believe the 49ers have that in their roster. And so, but in order to get him, I don't know if they'd have to give up a Jawan Jennings, would be probably odd man out in terms of receivers, because you have to keep Debo. I think you still keep Brandon Ayuk. Gray, maybe spendable again, Jawan Jennings. But I just don't know what trade capital the Niners have plus cash in order to get a talent like Hopkins.
Well, they don't have to trade him. They can just sign him. But he's like, I think I heard he's asking like 15 a year.
Okay, that's right. You did say he's a free agent now. Yeah. Then it's just how much money do they have left in the bank to sign him.
Yeah.
I can see the Saints trying to make a strong play for him also. I can see.
But they have a terrible cap situation though.
Yeah.
And they don't have a quarterback either.
No, they don't. I mean, the Niners don't have one.
We have two. It's just a matter of which one's going to start. Come on, man. We go through this every week.
If you have two, that means you have none.
We have 2-2. I don't include Darnold because he's going to be a backup quarterback. I can't see. I even if Purdy isn't ready, I know we're going off topic, but if let's say Brock Purdy isn't ready at the start of the season, I just cannot see the 49ers starting Sam Darnold over Trey Lance. I just can't see that. Unless Trey Lance just does horribly in OTAs and preseason.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So hearing, again, I'm just going to go with this. So they're talking about, they show the stats. They'll show Darnold's stats and they'll show Trey Lance's stats. But then the reporters that are there that are pro Trey are like, yeah, the stats, let's say he was like 50%, but like they're not explaining that like the receivers dropped 4 of them. They're not showing some of his long passes. So it's like you can see there's almost like this kind of PR move around Trey either not getting the nod or a move, just based on what these guys are saying. Granted, I'm not at practice, so I can't watch it. But as far as D-Hop, if he ends up going to the Browns or ends up going to some other sucky team, just so we can get 15 million a year, I'll puke, because the guy is so talented and he's never been on a good team. He's never been on a really good team, and he has an opportunity right now to go anywhere he wants, just depending on whatever number he chooses. Like if he said, hey, I'll play for 8 million, he could go to Buffalo. He could go to he could go anywhere if he plays for $5 to $8 million a year. Play for 1 year, just do it like Juju did. Play for 1 year, win a ring, go to a Super Bowl, do something big, and then go play for the Browns and be terrible and insignificant for the rest of your career. I just hope he doesn't end up on the Rams. I'll say that.
Well, it's a question of whether or not he wants to try to win a ring or if he's just looking to make as money as he can. And if it's the latter, then he gets what he asked for and goes to a team and he just becomes a well-paid receiver who's never in the running to try to win a championship.
Which is what he's been his whole career. All right, so big stuff this week with the NBA, obviously, and we will catch back up with you guys next week. And so what do we have? Game tomorrow. So we'll still be in the finals next week.
Well, we will play 3 games. So we will be, I think, because we play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think Saturday. And then I think game 5 would be then on Tuesday, because there's 2 days between games now.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so we're still good for next week.
Yeah.
Talking basketball. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I will see you all next week.